The Betcast Picks of the Week.
All right, here we go, guys. Betcast segment of the Redcast, and it was not a glorious weekend for at least three of us. I took Skip's advice and took Tulsa, and they had that game for a while, but ultimately lost to Wyoming in overtime. Boomer, it was too good to be true. Illinois lost Indiana. I knew that line stunk, and sure enough, there it is. And I probably overthought my Colorado State at Michigan over at 61.5. I did get to 58, but I probably should have just simply took the Michigan cover at around 30-some points because that would have been quite easy. But Rob, keeping it simple, keeping it basic, taking the Horned Frogs to cover 2 touchdowns to Colorado. I did take that as well, and it landed. Yeah, it felt pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, living in Colorado, one of the things that you really get to hear is zero talk about the Colorado Buffs, and they're
true.
I hear more radio chatter on the UNC Bears and CSU football up here in Northern Colorado than I do the CU Buffs. And the fact of the matter, they're just not a good football team, and they might almost be my Kansas for the year, right? As far as taking them on a lot of different bets, because I really don't see them winning more than 2 or 3 games, maybe the entire season.
Yep.
So, and when I saw TCU too, I knew TCU is a Big 12 team, right? So, I mean, they're not going to come out here and be trash. And they're always kind of a decent team. So I didn't see it. 2 touchdowns. I mean, give it to me all day against Colorado. So.
Yeah, it did seem like that was a low number, and you found some value there, obviously.
Yeah.
I
will say though, I was really surprised at the Wyoming game, and the only reason that I stayed away from that one at all this weekend was because in Wyoming, that altitude for any team, especially a team like Tulsa, coming from is Tulsa like below sea level at this point? I don't even know anymore. I'm not sure with all the fracking that goes on in Oklahoma. They
probably
may have
around
lowered
1,000
about 20
feet plus
feet.
or minus.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's a big change for them, and especially this early in the season when teams are still getting game conditioned, right? Maintaining 4 quarters up there in Wyoming is not going to be easy for anybody. I was just surprised because Wyoming just was not a good team the week before. I think they generated like 46 yards of offense or some crazy thing in one half, but somehow they managed to pull this one out. They scored 40 points against Tulsa, which.
Yeah, well, they had 2 overtimes. They also had, I believe, a pick six, or it was a scoop and score, like one of the very first plays of the game. They went up 7-0 right off the bat, and that 7 points mattered because ultimately Tulsa had taken the lead and led for most of the second half, but ultimately went to overtime and lost there. Last week, the week before, we were much better. Rob now 2-0 with the first 2 weeks of the season. I did win my first week game as well as Boomer. Producer Skip, who's the best gambler of the bunch, actually. Sometimes it's tough to pick your best bet, right? I mean, it doesn't mean you didn't have a successful week. I won a bunch of other games out there last week. I'm going to win tonight, it looks like, but I didn't pick the right one, right? And so it is always a challenge, but that's the beauty of something like the Betcast Pick'em. I want to plug that one more time before we start breaking down the games. Is that you have your 2 lowest weeks are thrown out here, and there's a lot of games to pick. So it's not just one bet that you're trying to win off of, like what we do with our best bets. You'll probably have 15 to 25 games to pick each week. So make sure you sign up for our Go Big Redcast Best Bets College Football Pick'em. Group ID is 5209. Password's Betcast. All right, guys, what do you got? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say though, while we're on the subject of that too, if you want to know, Dave, looking at like the first week's results, Boomer actually had the best results on the Pick'em this week with 17 points, and after that is myself, and then with 16, and then you had 15, and Skip is down there in 14 points for the week. So that one may actually end up getting eliminated for Skip in the long run, because it could be one of his worst 2 weeks over the season. But somebody got 20 points on that, which means they picked 20 games right. So good job.
Against the spread. That's
against the spread. good job, Dougie's picks. I hope you made thousands of dollars on those two. I hope if betting is legal wherever it is that you live. How's that? So.
Yep. And I would also say my best bets of the week would be good if Big Ten refs were all competent and could view a screen and see what happened in a game. I'm still furious about that one. I mean, for the love of God, that was a...
Oh, sure. You say it and nobody says anything. I call them toilet water and everybody...
no, I'm turning into the Betcast segment. This is where I can boo. There's money at stake here, Rob. So this is where I can actually say something. I mean, that was a terrible call. There wasn't anybody who watched that game that didn't think that was a touchdown, and they blew that. And that would have completely changed that entire game. It's 4 points they lost. They probably would have kicked the field goal when it was 4th and 1 there, so it should have been up 7, and that was 7 extra points Illinois should have had, and that should have been a win. And plus, the other smashing pumpkins moment of that game was, when I texted you guys earlier, it was I wanted to make a World is So Dark pick and pick Florida as my best bet of the week.
You should have.
I know I should have. I had it out there. I dangled it and pulled it back at the last minute. Damn it.
Your World is So Dark picks almost always come true.
I know they do, and I don't want them to. It's a power I don't want to have, Dave. That's the worst part about it.
I mean, you pretty much just take the SEC to win, and that's usually probably a pretty good bet.
It's a cross-eyed bear, and I should, do it more often, but I don't. I just wish something else would happen, and it never does.
So far, I've heard you mention Smashing Pumpkins and an Alanis Morissette lyric in a matter of 30 seconds. So
yeah, we're going very 90s kind of, quasi.
Forever, I thought it was a cross-eyed bear that he gave to her, but apparently it's
maybe it was. I don't know. A grizzly that's just really confused.
Well,
just like there's a bathroom on the right. Yes.
Of the 90s, Texas was not bad in the 90s, and one of the big games this week, early on Saturday morning, at least here in Colorado, is Alabama visiting Austin, and Alabama, I think, is minus 20 right now on the road in Austin. I got this bet last night at minus 19.5. It opened up at 18.5, I think. Boomer, you have any interest in grabbing Alabama while it's still under 21?
As soon as I saw that 19.5, if you're not taking Bama at this point, I don't know why you wouldn't. It's hard to have a ton of faith in Texas. They're early. You don't know a lot about this coaching staff, what they're going to do. And Bama covers that stuff so easily. That's a 20-some point win, I think, for Bama just at this point. So, and Saban gets that elusive third win on the road. So, yeah.
Yep. And take Bama to cover the first half spread.
Yeah, Rob, you like that money that I gave you last week?
You know what's funny is that I'm actually building some cornhole boards for the Redcast, and one of our friends of the show, Shane and Laura over at Smack and Smooch. And so I spent all day Saturday building cornhole boards, and I didn't put any money down this weekend at all.
So you did not make money on the Alabama first half, which covered easily as usual.
I did not. And I had a lot more stuff going on this week. I was trying, I'm coming to Lincoln this weekend. I'm leaving on Thursday. I have a lot of stuff to get done. And I neglected, of all the things that I had on my list to do, that was probably near the bottom of it.
All right, well, let's get back to the bet casting here. And I'll throw one more game out, and then I'll throw it to Boomer and Rob. I've got several others I want to talk about, but Rob, you mentioned Colorado might be in your Kansas this year. They are at Air Force in Colorado Springs, down at the academy. This number's around 17 right now. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think Air Force is a Mountain West contender, and Colorado may not win more than 2 games at best this year, kind of like the Falcons, to cover that 17 points.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me on that game, and it's funny because the only thing that worries me on that game is how much Air Force runs the ball, right? So they're not going to have as much, we'll say. I mean, they have the same amount of clock, obviously, but they're going to be running the clock a lot as usual. So it'll be 17 points is a lot for a team that runs the ball a lot. I don't know what their average.
I just don't think Colorado's going to score that much.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. At least they will have probably a good fan base there. At least it's only right down the road in Colorado Springs from Boulder.
Colorado, there's not that many CU fans going to be down there.
You don't think so?
No. They barely show up to their own stadium.
God, Dave, you stole my joke from me. God.
I mean, come on. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's a very and if you've ever tried to go down I-25 to get to an Air Force game before, I mean, you're basically sitting in traffic until halfway through the game. It's like you're in Los Angeles going to a Dodgers game or something.
Well, there you go.
All right.
So
I know that it just worries me because they run. they run the ball so much. The game that I'm interested in is the Iowa State game this week.
Dang it, Rob, you're stealing my game.
Well, and that's okay.
So are you talking about the under at 41.5?
I am talking about the under 41.5, and I actually
super low.
I know
that's an academy under, Rob.
How many safeties is that, Dave?
Yeah, that's the point. Is that Iowa could win this game and still not see the end zone. I think we already know that. So, I mean, this could be another 4-inning baseball game. I think Honky.
I hear you. It could be an overreaction. I get it. If that goes up, that number goes up to like 44. I'd be interested in taking it, but I just think 41.5 is awfully low. Boomer, you thinking about taking the under though?
I don't even think I was taking the under. I think I'm taking Iowa State in that game.
Yeah,
I mean, do you see Iowa making huge offensive improvements?
They do this. To Honky's point, they do this all the time, guys. They look like trash one week, and then they turn around and they'll middle around and win this game 24-13 or something like that.
What?
Well, yeah, but 3 of those touchdowns are going to be. Yeah, there'll be 3 defensive touchdowns though.
Well, so it doesn't matter. They still.
I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't matter, but I just. Yeah.
I mean, Matt Campbell is due. I mean, if you want to take the philosophy of the ups and downs here, everybody thought that Iowa State was going to be the better team last year. It didn't happen, and Iowa continued their streak. Matt Campbell is yet to beat Iowa. This would be the type of year where he does it with a completely different cast, and you didn't expect it. So I get it. I might just stay away from this one, but it's an intriguing game.
I mean, a 3.5-point spread in Iowa City, against Iowa State, which is a natural rival game. A 3.5-point spread is like Vegas saying
neutral site in Des Moines. This would be a pick'em.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, in Des Moines, neutral site in Des Moines. That's funny. But I mean, this is again, I probably would stay away from it too. But it's still an interesting game. I hope we get a chance to watch it. But it's going to be on right before it does. It's going to be on before the Husker game starts this week, and so I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm not looking that forward to watching it. I would like to see what the outcome is. Boomer, what other games are you looking at? Anything in particular?
Well, there's another game I was kind of intrigued with. I don't know what to make of it at this point. Baylor and BYU. BYU's -3.5 on that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what to make of that game yet. I was eyeballing that, and I don't know. I'm not sure, so I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on that for the next few days and give that one some thought. So
a line I saw, and again, like Illinois and Indiana, the line kind of stinks.
Yeah.
You got BYU at home.
Are Big Ten refs doing this game, Dave? That'll look like how I do it.
You could see this being a situation where Baylor does not play in that type of altitude. It's a late game. But I mean, Baylor, I like Dave Aranda a lot, but they were replacing a lot, especially offensively. So that'll be intriguing. And Baylor, wants to try to repeat in Big 12. BYU is going to be a future conference foe here before you know it. It's an interesting one. Don't know what to think. Rob, you got anything else on your board?
I mean, I was kind of looking at the Kansas State Missouri game. I liked the over on 54.5. It's also really? I also like Kansas State at -8. It'd be interesting. It didn't that last game, Kansas State that they played. That was hard. That was an enigma because I didn't watch the game. I just looked at the box score and how did they score?
Weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, geez, how did they score? What was it, 38 points or something on that? But yeah, I kind of like the over 54.5 on this. Just yeah, and the other one I'm looking at too, a lot of Big 12 games. I'm not really that interested in a lot of the Big 10 games this week for reasons that they're just not really playing anybody.
Sure.
Yeah, but like West Virginia and Kansas will be another really interesting one.
Only 13
on 13 right now is what I'm seeing on ESPN. And I kind of like West Virginia at -13 on that to stick with my old, and that might even be my best bet for the week. Is West Virginia -13 if it sticks, but we won't know till Thursday what that line is at, so I'll have to wait and see because that's when we're making our picks, right? So
yeah, right. We'll see where that line moves. I mean, if you really want to bet it, you can bet it now at 13.
Get it now, yeah,
but you may not be able to make that bet for a best bet on Thursday. All right. Well, I've got a few here that I'm looking at. Oklahoma State and Arizona State. You're talking about Big 12. That should be a good matchup.
All future Big 12 members, Dave. Is that what you're implying?
Maybe.
I thought that was just a Big 12 matchup. I got confused there for a second.
It does seem like a natural fit, really.
It really does. It really does.
The Missouri K-State game is also on my list, Rob. I don't know. Adrian went 5 of 11 for like
43 yards or something.
43 yards.
It was under 50 yards. Yeah.
I'm sure that Deuce Vaughn looked great, but I mean, I don't know if I trust Kansas State's offense quite yet. And Missouri's still an SEC team. I mean, that's something. So I guess maybe, but you're taking an SEC team against what should be a middle of the pack Big 12 team, and you're giving them a touchdown. It's tempting. Transitioning to more SEC, I like the over in Tennessee Pitt probably. That could be a fun game to watch. Maybe the over in Washington State, Wisconsin. A lot of good crossovers here with these early season games. Game I'm intrigued with here, and maybe it has some value if you can get it right now. Louisville will just look like trash against Syracuse. Scott Satterfield might be in trouble down there, guys. I tell you. At UCF's favored by 6.5. I just don't know if Louisville can score enough points to stick with a relatively, fine-tuned UCF offense that just keeps on plugging and replacing players and keep on producing points. So that's an intriguing one. One I'm probably staying away on, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Kentucky going down to the swamp. Florida off that big victory. Anthony Richardson looked really good versus Utah. Utah looked good in that game too. I thought Utah did nothing to shame themselves. They could bounce back, win 11 more games, and potentially still make the playoff. But Florida looked better than expected. For goodness sakes, guys. I mean, we've been struggling with this for 5 freaking years. And Florida's new head coach, who his former head coach was the guy who got the job because Scott Frost supposedly turned Florida down. And their new head coach's name is Billy. Right?
Yeah,
and he goes and wins his first game against the 7th.
Yeah.
What, Boomer?
That's a classic SEC type name. You got to go with Billy in it, yeah.
Billy Napier wins his first game as the coach of Florida against the number 7 team in the country. So frustrating, but Anthony Richardson, I think that's the quarterback, looked very legit. But Kentucky beat him last year. Kentucky, some of them have them slated as the number 2 team in the SEC East. That should be an intriguing matchup. I don't know if I have a take on that one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I looked at it too. I almost brought it up, but then I thought, maybe the over might be a play on there. It's 52 points. But other than that, I mean, Kentucky at Florida. Florida seems to, I don't know, man. Like 4.5 might be, if you're going to take Florida at 4.5 right now. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Like, who is Kentucky? Like, it's Kentucky, and you don't know. And I looked at this and I thought, am I looking at a basketball ranking? It's just, this would be a hell of a basketball matchup. Number 20 Kentucky at Florida, but from a football standpoint, it's just so iffy because like Kentucky could just easily come out and just crap the bed this year. So I have no idea.
It's a polar team. There's a lot of guys that are still high on Kentucky. Others are like, no, they're going to take a step back. Will Levis is the quarterback there, guy that we handled quite easily when he was at Penn State, subbing in for Sean Clifford now, like 3 years ago.
Is Wandale still there? Is he?
No, he's in the NFL.
Right? Yeah, he's in the NFL now.
Right? Yep.
Who did he end up with? I can't even remember. Didn't he sign as like a undrafted free agent or something?
No, he got drafted and he's doing quite well.
Oh, okay.
They're very high.
I have no idea.
Giants, I think.
He got drafted in the 2nd round, I think.
Is
really?
Giants
or 3rd? Yeah.
Sound right? New York Giants? Am I wrong?
Giants. That sounds right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just stopped following him after he left, so I forgot.
A few more that I'll throw out since it's the Betcast and not the Wandale Robinson show. Let's see here. Wake Forest is only 8.5 point favorites over Vanderbilt. Maybe too much being put into that Vanderbilt thopping over Hawaii. Hawaii is horrible. I've already taken Michigan to cover the 50 versus Hawaii this week. it's 50. You don't see that very often.
No, that's a lot of points.
In FBS versus FBS to have a 50-point spread, but Michigan is favored by 50, now 51, I believe, over Hawaii. Vanderbilt only 8.5-point dogs to a Wake Forest team. Is missing Sam Hartman, but intrigued on that one. And I'll wrap it up with Oregon State Fresno. Oregon State's actually a dog right now at Fresno. Oregon State looked pretty good last week, beating up on Boise, really controlling that game. They've got I can't remember his name, Boomer. I don't know if you watched that game too. Number 12 is like a two-way player for Oregon State. He does everything. He's their backup quarterback. He ran the ball. He caught the ball. He made tackles. I was like, who is this guy? So Oregon State, somewhat intriguing. Tyjon Lindsey is still on that team. And Tristan Gebbia is a captain, but not the starting quarterback.
But anytime Fresno's at home, I mean, and we talk about
it is a tough place to play.
It is because anytime Fresno is the one place. I'm a California kid, and I can tell you, Fresno is the one place where fans will always show out for their team in California. Right? It's not Southern Cal. It is. It's really hot, but they love their high school football in the Central Valley. Let me tell you, man. Like they love it out there, and they love their Fresno Bulldogs, and people will travel far and wide. And that's a tough place to play. I've actually been to a couple games down there in Fresno, and it's a great atmosphere. Yeah, it's a great
Nebraska
atmosphere.
was down there. I don't know when that was, Boomer. I forget now, but we visited Fresno probably in the Pelini years, if you remember right, and we were able to get out with a victory. But that's no picnic down there.
2016-ish sounds about right. Yeah.
Oh, it was a Riley year. Was that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I remember right. Yeah. That'd be my guess. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, anything else bet-wise before we get to our parting shots?
What was the over/under on the Clemson Georgia Tech game?
I got it at 51.
Oh, well, it's currently sitting at 50.
Perfect. That's all you need. And there's a minute 35.
And there's a minute 35 left. So
Clemson has the ball. You're in good shape, Dave. So,
No, they're kicking the extra point.
Okay. I didn't even see that. There you go. There's your 51. Sorry,
unless it's blocked. No. I'm going to play
nobody blocks a field goal.
Nobody blocks a field goal at the end of the game. Happen. What are you talking about? An extra point? That doesn't happen.
Well, that's how my betting week went.